Hello. Have you ever heard from modern spiritual people things like, there is no karma, forget about karma. Instead, develop your personal spiritual power. That's the main thing. The idea of karma will pull you back like an anchor, so forget about it. Did it resonate with you? If it did, please listen to this video until the end, because I'm going to explain why such slogans and ideas at the end may actually prevent you from developing your personal power instead of helping you along the way. Just in a couple of words, what is this karma all about, at least in traditional sense? It's a set of circumstances into which we are born and situations which happen to us and which are predestined and custom tailored according to what we have done in other lifetimes. And all this is done with the purpose of educating us and prompting us, so to say, to develop godly qualities. Because if we go the wrong way, we suffer. So the suffering is like a reminder you are going astray. Okay, let's see some of the statements which modern people who consider themselves spiritual make. Forget about karma, they say. If things were predestined, then you can't grow, you can't develop your powers, you have no choice. Things were predestined, they continue. You are like a robot. Your free will is taken away by this karma. End of quote. People who say such things, first of all, try to create a wrong impression of what karma is anyway in the understanding of the listener. Because karma doesn't mean that your entire life is predestined. It is only a concept which educates you how much is predestined, how much you can change in order to help you make wiser decisions, so that you don't incur more uncomfortable karmic situations in future lives and even in this one, because not everything is predestined. But these modern preachers, they actually deceive their audience. They're creating the impression that karma means that everything is predestined, while this is definitely not so in traditional sense. In Buddhism, in Hinduism, they don't say karma means all your life is predestined. Definitely not. And also, we have brilliant modern researchers who have done the painstaking task of studying meticulously many cases of children who remember past lives, who can provide evidence that they have correct information. Children who speak languages which not only they have not heard, which they didn't even know existed on earth, and still they know these languages. So there is a lot of evidence about reincarnation and what kind of laws it follows, and the modern findings definitely confirm the old concept. There are exceptions for everything, and I'm sure there are some people who may think that karma means everything is predestined and you have no choice. But even if such people exist, can they be shown as typical proponents of karma? This is deceiving. And people who use deception when they preach, beware of them. So, in response to what I said, these modern spiritual, considering themselves spiritual people, they will say, okay, but it doesn't matter anyway, because all your karma, it can be changed immediately when you visualize things or desire things strongly. So it doesn't matter anyway. You can change it as you go, as you wish. You are fully independent. All you need is to develop your personal power and not care about any karma. Karma can be changed in a blink. Wonderful, really wonderful. Sad that it doesn't work at all that way in real life. There are millions of people on this earth, and billions if we also take historic examples. People who suffered terribly from all kinds of miseries, physical pain, or mental or emotional agony. So what? They didn't imagine that they didn't visualize that they are getting out of this situation. They were dreaming for it many years and it never happened. Or what, didn't they wish strong enough? As the new age people diagnose the problem. Oh, you didn't wish strong enough, that's why it didn't happen. Oh no, they wished very, very strong enough. But still they could not remedy their situation. Indeed, if it was like this law of attraction people preach, just imagine and things will work automatically, people wouldn't get in trouble anyway. Who would wish to get sick or suffer or be poor? It is not wrong to say that by visualization and strong wish anything can be changed, but you have to add to this that this process may take many lifetimes and it will require changes in the personality. And then the statement, when it's complete, then it's absolutely true. But to say just the half and mislead people, I don't think that's very honorable. And in addition, it may actually push away from spirituality the most intelligent and sensible people who will try this recipe. They will visualize and pray and wish something strongly. It will not happen, and they will just get disappointed with all these spiritual people. Yeah, they will, if they're new to spirituality, they will not bother to experiment with something else. They will immediately decide that all this spirituality is just nonsense. It simply doesn't work. And then the modern spiritual people will say, it doesn't matter whether you believe in karma or not, it's all the same, because at the end it's your development of your personal powers which matters. So just concentrate on that and forget about karma, even if it exists. Really, what kind of personal powers are they advising us to develop anyway, the way they speak, if this involves becoming ignorant about the laws which move the nature and the events around us? The real personal powers worth developing anyway go hand in hand with genuine knowledge, because that will set you free from misery. Putting blinders and refusing to see the laws which govern all the situations around you, that is equivalent to voluntarily insisting to remain in ignorance. There is indeed enormous power in the techniques of visualization and creating positive thought forms. These things do work, but they don't work the way some modern spiritual people are trying to convince you, especially if you buy their expensive books, where you will be assured that if you wish anything strong enough, it will definitely happen. Don't you worry at the slightest. It doesn't happen to most people. Just because there are many natural laws of our environment, the law of karma and rebirth being one of them, and if you want your visualization and cultivation of personal power to work, you need to know the rules of the game. And that involves at least basic understanding of how karma works. And actually, these people, which I called modern spiritual, they're not bad at heart. Their last intention is to deceive anybody. They just talk such things because they have heard them from others. And ultimately, all these modern ideas, which demonize the knowledge of karma and rebirth, they have been planted by the parasitic forces who make everything possible to plunge us into ignorance. And as we know, they do it cunningly and gradually. So they have convinced most of the people on earth that there is no karma and that's nonsense, because everything spiritual is nonsense by default. But still there are some who don't believe them. So for them, at least they will offer like a milder version. Yeah, karma, it's okay, but you don't believe in it, even if it is there, because and here come all their Machiavellian misleading explanations. And it is really essential for them to demonize karma, to make us irresponsible, because that's how they can trick us into crimes. And we actively participate in such crimes because we are obliged to pay taxes, and with these taxes, wide varieties of terrible crime is caused, and we participate in this. Unfortunately, I cannot provide full detail of all the unbelievable crimes that we finance with our money because that will endanger my YouTube channel. People who speak the truth are either banned or their audience, their popularity is suppressed. So it's really essential for them to make the people unaware that they're responsible for what they're financing and for what they're participating in. They don't mind that people think that they're developing some sort of powers as long as they subscribe to their crimes. It's okay with them. And the worst about this whole situation is that such ideas have become so fashionable. They have penetrated the circles and communities of people who are interested in spirituality to such an extent that even good modern gurus include such elements when they preach, even though they themselves otherwise well understand and value the teachings of karma and reincarnation, as proven by their own statements made under different circumstances. I had a guru years ago and he told me something, and then after a few days he told me the absolutely opposite, and I was very confused and somewhat disappointed because I was wasting time to apply the things he told me first and it didn't work, and then he tells me the opposite, and I even asked him straightforwardly, I'm confused. First you told me this, and after a few days you're telling me exactly the opposite. And he replied that only this is true, the other one is not true, but because the simple people prefer simplified ways to say things, sometimes I say that as well. After which I decided not to be his disciple anymore, just because this way of teaching was confusing me and wasting my time. Otherwise, he's a good teacher whom I recommend till nowadays to other people. So please don't leave your guru just because sometimes he says things like those debunked earlier in this video. He may actually not mean it, or in some cases, it may be irrelevant even to the level you are at. For example, a fanatic religious sect, which in most cases would hardly contribute to anybody's spiritual emancipation, such a sect may ban completely alcohol. So if an alcoholic joins that sect, for him it will be actually beneficial because this spirit of fanatism and restriction, it will put a wall between him and alcohol. Hopefully he doesn't get stuck there afterwards when his head is clear enough to understand any spiritual teachings. So this video is not meant to make you critical towards any guru you may follow. I made it only to give a detail of the rules of the game in which we all participate, because understanding what's going on may save you lots of frustration. Otherwise, you may think you develop your spiritual powers for many years just to realize after decades that you have wasted your life because you've been swimming against the current and there was no progress, although you were swimming very, very hard. Or at least I did that for certain part of my life. In the description, you can find few titles taken from this very informative list of works on reincarnation and karma, and while many of them are on the speculative side, there are some also very nice scientific publications with serious research over many years, with well documented real cases of proven reincarnation, which give us insights into how karma actually works. And some pretty interesting stuff is surfacing sometimes in this type of books. For example, do you remember in the Bible? I'm not a Bible expert, but there was some story when somebody asked Jesus, why is this man suffering? And at least part of the reply of Jesus was that he is suffering because of the sins of his ancestors. So, regardless of how fair you find this entire situation, fair or not, it seems we are affected by it because in these resources listed over there is interesting stories. For example, a father and son or a mother and son, something like that, that they were separated at the birth. Yeah, sometimes it happens. And they reunited after decades. And when they met each other, they were very surprised to find out that they had accident injuries exactly at the same place. They had scars at the same places. When I heard this story, I understood actually a story which happened to me personally. Completely different context, but there was a strange sequence, very strange sequence of events happening to me and my mother, but we didn't know that the same thing is happening to both of us because we were not in touch at that time. And when we met after a few months, she started telling me what happened to her, and it was very peculiar, not something commonplace. And surprise, surprise, I was listening to the story that was happening to me at the same time, at a completely different place. So, what is the conclusion of all this? We do shape the world and the events around us with our thoughts. That is the single most important thing that one has to understand in order to start getting a clue what is going on earth and in his or her personal life. But the fact that there is correlation between our thoughts and what happens to us doesn't mean it is one-to-one projection, like you think and in few days or weeks it happens. No, it is much more complicated. For example, in this equation, is R related to X? For sure, it depends upon X, but it's not linear, it is very complex. So, in the same way, R being the circumstances of your life, they depend on X, but not in a linear way. They depend on many other things as well. The law of karma and many other factors. Well, the people who preach the so-called law of attraction, what they do is they take examples showing that X and R are connected, and then they say that means X or what you think means R in few days or few weeks, as if no other correlation is possible.